Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Post Political Podcast. I'm the host, Derek Britton, and I'm very, very excited about our guest tonight, Ari. I have talked about them a few times in the last couple of podcasts, introducing a little bit of what we're going to be talking about, and we actually have a pretty great thing that we're going to kind of unveil to folks tonight, so look for that. First off, we have the advertisements. We have the Vermin Supreme Institute. Our purpose is to inspire social evolution through the disruption of authoritarianism, to promote compassionate activism, and to spread the knowledge of redacted history. Through the use of humor, direct action, and mutual aid, we uplift the disaffected, the disenfranchised, and the disempowered. And we are very happy to announce again that the Love in Action fundraiser benefiting the homeless camps in Reno went very well. We were able to achieve our goal, and all of that. All of the stuff that we got is now on a pallet, I believe, on a truck and being shipped right to Reno. So, next weekend, I believe, is not this coming weekend, but the weekend after will be the distribution of that. And we will talk about that a little bit more too after that goes well. So I'm looking forward to talking more about that. And then next up, we have Brewed Coffee. So if you're in Lexington, Kentucky, check out Brewed Coffee and Beer Drinkery. You can check out my affiliate link in the comments to buy mugs, shirts, hats, masks, all sorts of different stuff. So check out Brewed Coffee in Lexington, Kentucky. And lastly, we have the Post Political Podcast merch store. So if you go to postpoliticalpodcast.com/shop and enter the code UNITY, you get 10% off your order. And you will actually be seeing a new piece of merchandise, I guess, or a few pieces of merchandise that we will be talking about in this episode. So to introduce my guest tonight, we have Ari. So tonight we are talking to Ari Gabrek. They had an event this past weekend we're going to be talking about down in New Orleans that was benefiting the Trans Resource Network Louisiana. And we are also going to be talking about mutual aid and direct action. So let's bring them on. How is it going?
Hey, it's going great.
Awesome.
The event actually went really well. We ended up fundraising $860 through the raffle. And we're
awesome.
Looking at actually bringing in a little bit more. There's a place that is going to be hosting us called Les Talk. It's another podcast here in the greater New Orleans area where we'll be selling some of the stuff that didn't get raffled off to people directly.
Awesome. That's great. No, yeah. that's a good number to hit. That's a good amount of money to bring in and help out the folks that you help with that organization. We'll be talking about that a little bit later as well. But no, that's great. I saw you showed a couple of the things that you guys were rappelling off to me, and it was awesome. I mean, some of the amazing, talented artists down in that area were producing some cool stuff. The dye that was kind of the trans flag, that was incredible. I thought that was really, really cool. You sent that over. So
that was our third highest bid on item. And we had over 20, we had 27 items that were for raffle. That one on its own raised over $100.
That's great.
And that one was done by Wendy Anderson. She's an artist actually in Virginia. She works at the Workhouse Art Center, and it's a former reformatory that got turned into an art center. The interesting portion on that one was that it was Theodore Roosevelt's foray into progressive prison reforms. Instead of throwing people, into confinement, he ended up formulating for federal prisons at that time in the early 1900s a way of giving them work, a job. The recidivism rate there was actually very, very low up until about the 1960s. And there was a working farm there. There was a power plant. There was a fishery. They worked on farm equipment. They had and learned and were given things to do. And the recidivism rate, go figure, was next to nothing.
Right. No, and just get, it shows like if you're able to do, give skills and not exploit that late, that probably had gotten more and more perverse as years have gone on. And that's probably some of the stuff we've probably seen in the 60s that turned into, some of the low wage work. But, originally early on, being able to give folks that went into that system some sort of skill to come out of that system with and do something that they want to do, that they got excited about while they were there. That's definitely going to help people stay out of that situation. I think that's great. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I know we talked a little bit about the craft fair piece, but I want to talk to you more about broader kind of mutual aid in the area. I know you do a lot of different things and are involved into a bunch of different mutual aid efforts down there. And yeah, I just kind of want to hear about a bunch of them. I have some of the links you sent me earlier, and I can put those in the comments as well as you start talking about them.
Yeah, definitely. So my group is Trans Resource Network of Louisiana, or TRNOLA, and we are dedicated to actually helping the transgender community here in the greater New Orleans area. We are completely community based. We are doing fundraising only in as much that we want to be able to give people a hand up so that they can start their lives and start going and getting to places that they need to. What we end up doing is engaging with community to be able to have them help one another. People helping people.
Yeah.
And it's been people helping people that has allowed it.
Oh, we just lost you. It just froze up the audio and video. I think this happened once on the pre-call and it came right back. So hopefully we get you to come back soon here. Oh, I just heard you. So hopefully it's kind of on the way back. And yeah, the video is still very frozen. Oh, here we go. I think it's actually bringing you back
to focus in on.
We missed all of that, Ari. You had frozen, and we're gonna have to go back and talk about it, I think.
There's a little bit of buffering there.
Yeah, let's see if it comes back. Let's see. Sorry, y'all, a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think this is starting to come back. It looks like the video is maybe we're back. Ari, can you hear me? Oh, looks like we might have lost Ari. So we were talking a little bit about the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana that Ari does down in Louisiana. Down in New Orleans specifically. And I'm going to preemptively, while we're waiting, put their PayPal link in the comments. So if you feel like you would like to donate to the efforts, there's the PayPal link there in the comments now. And we are going to also unveil something tonight that you could help by purchasing a thing that Ari and I will be kind of unveiling, hopefully, once they jump back into the podcast. I'm going to try seeing if I can bring Ari back in. It looks like they just dropped off, so hopefully Ari will jump back on. But yeah, so I know I've talked with Ari about this a few times in the last couple of weeks. We've been talking a lot more, obviously trying to get into the show and talking about some of the things that they're working on down in New Orleans. And it looks like Ari is on their way back. Let's see. And if not, I can take a little bit of time to talk about some of the work also being done for, if we're going to be talking about mutual aid, let's talk a little bit about some of the mutual aid programs that I am hoping to help work on here in the future. So we obviously are going to be talking tonight about the stuff down in Louisiana. but we also have up here in Boston, where I'm at, we're doing a little bit of work with Bridge Kids Give Back. We will be having Nancy from that organization on, I think, in 2 or 3 weeks. And we're hoping to do a little bit of fundraising there as well. And that group basically does work in Boston and also kind of the surrounding kind of greater Boston area. They bring hot meals and supplies and coats, and especially here in the winter when it gets really cold. I've seen her, post on Facebook that she's collecting comforters all around the area to bring in to folks in Lowell, Lawrence, Boston, kind of the whole area down here or up here, I guess, in Massachusetts. And we will be talking with her, like I said, I think it's like 3 weeks. So look for that as well. That's some of the mutual aid work that's being done up here that we're hopefully going to be trying to link up and do something together for fundraising there as well. And then I actually just started conversations with the Worcester. So I'm really close to Worcester, which is the second biggest city, I believe, in New England, but it's definitely the second biggest city in Massachusetts. And we're going to be starting to work. We just started the conversations now, but there's a group called the Worcester Free Fridge. And that group is basically bringing in, they've got a fridge out in front of, actually, I think this is in kind of quite a public place, but outside of a business. And they're going to be offering a bunch of different things, donation based. People can bring in food and put it in the fridge, have it labeled with all of the ingredients so that folks with allergies make sure that they're not eating anything that they're allergic to. And they'll be able to go in and grab the food as needed. And I know, that there's a lot more of these programs going around in different areas all across the country. So if you happen to, I'll put in the comments probably after the show, I'll go and find the link. But there's actually a really nice kind of free fridge and the shared fridge, mutual fridge network that I'll share the link in the comments after the show. And basically you can look up where you're located and you'll actually find the closest fridge to you. So if you were to have, some non-perishables or something that is not, is something that you're not going to use the full amount, you could always bring it to some of those areas. And the nice thing about that resource that I'm going to be sharing in the comments later is it actually has a list of all of the foods that are accepted, and also that they have, some of them actually have up-to-date lists of what's available there as well. So look for that. I'll put, like I said, I'll put that in at the comments after the show. But yeah, just some of the things that are popping up hopefully here in the next a month or so. I'm trying to, we did a lot of the politics on the first bunch of shows that we've done, and we had a Bitcoin episode earlier this week. I'm hoping to dive a little bit more into some of the mutual aid aspects as well. Obviously I do work with the Vermin Supreme Institute, but there's a lot of other things that I think we could partner with and hopefully bring the audience of the Post Political Podcast to other groups that are doing some amazing things that we can highlight and also, help raise some funds for, or, if, some of the places that do distribution of clothing and supplies and stuff, maybe you have some stuff that you could donate there as well if they accept those things. So we'll have to find out what those folks are looking for in particular when we talk to them. And hopefully I can share a lot of that information with you all as soon as possible. And I'm just going to look to see if Ari, I think, yep, it looks like Ari is coming back now. The stream looks good. I just got a notification. Let's see. Yep. Hello.
Hey. That should work better now.
Yeah, we got you. Yes. It looks like the video looks a little bit better too, and the audio's coming in, so it sounds like this is a going to work out well. So hopefully you all on the Post Political Podcast enjoyed my little time filler there of talking about some of the other mutual aid stuff that I'll be working on. But no, I think it was a good good little bit of time to talk about. I got to talk about a little bit of the stuff that's going on up in my area locally in Massachusetts. So now we get to talk about some of the stuff that's down in your area, and also, I know some of the work or some of the stuff that you'd shared with me as well, like the community fridges and stuff. I actually talked about the Worcester community fridge that I'm starting to work with up here. Those are kind of national networks, some of them, and they do a lot of work nationally. So let's get back to it. Let's hear a little bit more about some of the mutual aid stuff. And I know you were talking specifically about the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana. So let's take it off from there.
So specifically what we were able to do is through our network to get 15 people rides to medical appointments specifically for trans care.
Yep.
And we have been able to find houses in the last 5 months for 8 different individuals of trans experience. And like you were saying, I'm not the only one that's here. There's also Imagine Waterworks, which is doing amazing work here in the greater New Orleans area. And they've been used as a national model because everything through there is completely free. There's no compensation. There's no hierarchy. It's just people being good to people. Through that, the New Orleans Community Fridges started. There is now the free diaper and children's sections. Like they have diaper, wipes, children's clothing, shoes that families can just go and get completely for free. And the bigger one right now is of course that one, but there's also House of Tulip.
Yep.
And House of Tulip is the first house of its kind to really gear itself towards trans community. And what House of Tulip has been able to do is really focus in on getting community in to get engaged so that it can do some really smart things with it. So they just bought their first 2 houses in the greater New Orleans area, and they were able to do this all through crowdfunding. It was all through people, and it was one of the highest fundraising events that they had ever had. They ended up getting over $500,000 for their organization, and they outright just bought the houses that they ended up getting.
That's wonderful. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And this is small donors, big donors, all sorts of different, people coming in to be able to go and help. It wasn't just corporations, it was everybody. It was everybody who wanted to be able to be part of the community to help others and individuals. But going back to the one with the mutual aid networks here, Imagine Waterworks has been used as a national model to be able to model after. And they've been able to do food, housing for some of the different hurricane evacuees. We've been able to get things like rice makers or miniature fridges or microwaves so that they can cook inside of their spaces that they're in. Right. In other instances, Imagine Waterworks has been able to coordinate people sending out free fruit from people's gardens. And again, this is just people. It's just people helping one another. And here in the South, and in particularly in New Orleans, this kind of community assistance and this kind of community help is very majorly ingrained. Like we have this resilience of wanting to be able to help one another.
Right.
The Cajun Navy comes from Louisiana.
Right.
And they are completely, totally, and absolutely 110% volunteer based.
Right. Yeah.
It's just people wanting to be able to help others.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think there's something, to be said that We are seeing some of this in different communities kind of all over the United States. It's not prevalent everywhere. I'd love to see, you know, more of it everywhere, but there are definitely a lot of organizations that people can look for and reach out to. I wish there was, you know, some large aggregate. I know there is for the community fridges and things like that, but it would be wonderful if there was a larger aggregate of a lot more of the activism and community direct action that people could do head to. And I know I looked on some of the websites that you had sent me, and the Imagine Waterworks, they do have a lot of different resources there. And they've done a good job aggregating what they do have on that site.
So that actually came from a group called the Southern Movements Assembly. And it's a non-political group that gets together to be able to disseminate information for mutual aid throughout the South.
Oh, wow.
So it's from Virginia all the way out to Texas. And it is, like I said, a nonpartisan group.
Yep.
You have everyone from, you know, you have socialists, you have anarchists, you have every flavor that ends up coming in, because they believe that bottom up is better than top down.
Yeah.
That people know what they need. They're going to tell you what they need, and you're going to form everything that you need from those individuals telling you what they need.
Yeah.
It's not we're going to dictate to you what you need to do, but it's the people are going to tell you what they need, and you're going to form what you need around it.
Yeah, and I've always liked the the pairing of the terms mutual aid, direct action. I think they, you know, it's more than just the action itself being direct, but like the actual need and what is being given is typically so much more direct and like what is necessary. I guess what the person actually needs is being provided because they're directly telling the person giving them whatever they need. You know what I mean? I think that those types of systems that are like you said, bottom up, that are more community driven, and the folks who need any sort of access or help with anything can kind of tell what's needed, and that group can then go and help directly, instead of like you said, the top down are going to dictate what we're going to give out, and you make do with it whatever you can, and it might be a square peg in a round hole kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important that these kinds of organizations end up, you know, being the ones that are the power brokers, that are the power players, because they're going to be the ones that are going to facilitate what needs to be done and how it needs to be geared. Because when you don't have the ability to listen to the people and what their needs are, you're ultimately just going to flounder. And for myself, like, I've seen some individuals and some groups that had really great lofty ideals, but they didn't listen to the people, and they didn't listen to what the needs of those people were specifically.
Yeah.
They wanted to be able to go, okay, we're going to tell you what you have to do to be able to go and qualify for X, Y, and Z. Red Cross.
Right. Yeah. No, and even
not to denigrate them, but there are times in which, you know, their methods and the ways that they end up doing things are counterintuitive.
Right.
And that a more community-based approach is definitively needed.
Yep. Yeah, and it's you know, when you're not getting that kind of closed loop system, and you know, I like systems. I think in systems, I guess. So you know, without having that feedback directly to the folks providing any of the resources, they could be doing something, and like you said, maybe in perfect intentions, an incredible amount of effort and money and time and all of that spent on the complete wrong thing that community just does not need. If we, you know, if for instance, this is just a you know, kind of a side case, but say a bunch of folks gathered a ton of money for heavy coats for the winter in people in you know, some of the warmest climates in the United States of America. That's not going to do any good. You know what I mean? Like we need to make sure that and that's kind of a crazy, like kind of a silly example, but those types of things happen on kind of a more micro scale when you have large organizations like that are really top down driven, dictating what they're going to do without that kind of feedback loop from the community or the whatever group they're trying to help out.
Well, I mean that happened during Katrina here.
Right.
And you got a whole bunch of organizations swooping in, telling people what they were going to be doing and how they wanted to be able to do it and how to be able to qualify for everything. And then you come back and it's been now almost 16 years since Katrina, and there are still people who haven't gotten their money from FEMA.
Right.
And there still are people who are waiting for their Katrina cottages.
Yep.
that haven't gotten a single thing. They haven't gotten anything from the state government. They haven't gotten anything from, some of these different charities and organizations that were supposed to be in here to help.
Right.
And the important things that need to be taken into consideration are exactly that. You need to be community driven. You need to know what exactly the people need, and then you can formulate what you need to do around that.
Yep.
This next quarter, TRNOLA is actually going to be doing a needs survey for the people within the community. We did one when we first started and formed up, and we got a good feeling as to, what was definitively needed during that time during COVID.
Yep.
And I'm betting 10 to 1, it's going to change now, that things are changing. But, I look at specifically how people can do this and focusing in on and more smartly, surveying and knowing specifically what people need is necessary.
Right.
Like we're focusing in on housing and transportation, and maybe people need something completely different. Maybe people need more funding for top surgery, or they need money for co-pays.
Yep.
Or they want stuff like clothing. Any number of these different things are an important thing to be able to know specifically, what you need to have.
Yeah, and having small organizations, it's great to have these very large organizations that have, tons of people and tons of kind of momentum heading in one direction. And when there is a very big need that's obvious and kind of year round and something that's going to be there, I guess the need is going to be there for a very long time, that might work out. But in communities where things change day to day, some of these smaller groups that are working with a decent group, a number of folks, but able to kind of turn on a dime and change the direction that they're going, and maybe set up a new type of maybe supply chain if they need to get those whatever goods that's needed. I think some of the a lot of folks say we'd love for this to grow into this huge thing that does the entire state or something like that. Well, that could be shooting yourselves in the foot, saying that people in, say, the eastern half of the state's going to want the same thing that the western, or in the cities versus the rural areas or whatever. I think those smaller groups that are able to be a little more agile, I think, typically better serve. And it's amazing to hear that actual surveying is being done. I haven't seen that, locally here in some of the groups that I've been talking to and working with, but that's cool. That's a really good way to get direct feedback, on things.
Well, it's when I attended the thing for SMA, the Southern Movement Assemblies, that was one of the things that we ended up talking about, was the fact that you need to know exactly what people need. You can't just dictate. You have to know what your population needs.
Yeah.
And it's not just the trans organizations. It should be every organization that's here within the United States. Definitely. Should more than likely be doing that.
Yeah.
Getting a survey of needs, getting to know what their community actually wants.
Right. Yeah, and that's going to be so much more impactful, having some things that might help but not are not directed perfectly are going to help, but they're not going to help as much as, things are, especially with a lot of the small businesses and stuff with COVID, really strangling some of that. It's the dollar needs to go further, and I think folks in mutual aid networks, folks in third parties, folks in like a lot of these places that don't have all that funding are able to stretch their dollars really well. And I think that, again, this kind of speaks to those smaller groups that are able to do more with less. And talk about the best way to be efficient is actually knowing directly and exactly what those folks need that you're trying to help, and being able to spend the dollars to those things specifically, instead of guessing or trying to make your best effort on a group of things, you know what I mean, that might not perfectly hit what they need. So that's great. No, I think the surveying thing, kind of a big light bulb for me. I had never heard folks doing that, and I think it's just such a good idea.
Like I said, SMA
Yeah.
has been really, really super eye-opening for myself, as to what actually needs to get done. And what we've been able to do through that, and how we've been able to organize, like, yeah, it's a bigger group, but it's based on smaller groups,
Right.
and it's non-hierarchical. So nobody's going to tell you how to be able to best do things. You need to figure it out on yourself.
Right.
And if you need to do a survey, do a survey.
Yeah.
I personally think every single non-for-profit at any level needs to survey their people, the
Right.
people that they're actually serving, to be able to figure out what they need.
Right. No, that's perfect. I think that's a good tool that I'm going to kind of bring back to any of the folks that I talk to locally here, or, anyone I talk to on the show. I think that's a really just useful tool that seems so obvious now that you've said it, but before that I just never, heard or seen of it. So,
well, it's just in some of the different organizations that I've volunteered for, it hasn't even been a thought. Like we know what's best because we formed this place, and that's not how it works. It's not how it should work. How it should work is, oh wait, let's actually ask the people.
Exactly. So I want to talk a little. So we might have missed, I think, more on the TRNOLA thing than you think. Because when you had finished the conversation a little bit about that, I think we had missed a little bit more of what you were saying. So can you just give us a quick recap and maybe a little bit more, and that'll kind of lead us into some more stuff that we want to talk about.
So, like I was saying previously with TRNOLA, we're community based.
Yep.
Everybody's just people helping other people. We have a Discord server. We have a Facebook group, and we have our main Facebook page as well.
Yep.
And it varies from day to day, but we have, again, people helping people. The entirety of the board is of trans experience.
Yep.
Everybody is either transgender or gender nonconforming.
Yep.
And even our executive director is a trans woman who we ended up helping. She reached out to us. We drove her from Livingston, Texas, all the way out here to New Orleans, and she's now working after finishing her master's here at a hospital.
That's wonderful.
And this is all just because, it's people who have contributed, people who have been able and willing to give rides.
Yep.
And it is completely community based. Our plans are for this next quarter to be able to do a couple more fundraisers. But our focus right now is actually finding housing.
Yep.
We are on the search for and talking to a couple of different people on potentially obtaining transitional housing or temporary housing, because as it is here in New Orleans, all of our shelters are overrun.
Right.
They're completely full. And these go for House of Tulip and some of the trans inclusionary shelters that we end up having here in the greater New Orleans area. because of COVID and the 2 different hurricanes that ended up hitting.
Right.
They're completely full. They've been full since last year. And, the need right now is definitively for finding people housing, because almost every week we hear a story or somebody messages us, we're getting kicked out of our home, or we're getting evicted from our house because we couldn't keep down a job.
Yep.
Or, we're losing our job because our manager is being transphobic. It's a daily, if not weekly occurrence that we have somebody contacting us.
Right.
And utilizing our network is what we're going to be, doing going forward, because it's a necessary. Our
Right.
whole dedication is to having both the trans community as well as allies, help us. That we rely on the totality of the community of the greater New Orleans area. Not just trans individuals,
Right.
but the LGBT community, the cis and straight community, our business community here. The space that was used was from a local business owner. She has an Airbnb, and she ended up donating the space to us to be able to go and house future raffles inside of.
That's
And I highly recommend her. If you're ever in the area, go look up La Maison de Lune. They have some really great spaces. It is in the heart of the Marigny. And she's fantastic.
That's
She's
great.
a cisgendered ally, but she knows the difficulties. She understands how it is for trans people in this area and how hard it ends up being. So it's everything that we've been doing from day one has been community oriented and has been completely dedicated towards, our community helping us and our ally community helping us as well.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. I mean, it's great to see larger communities coming together to help different folks in the area, especially being specifically targeted for losing their jobs and things like that, and losing housing. I mean, it's really sad. You hear about it a lot more, even now with COVID, especially. It feels like people are using that as an opportunity to kick people out of housing and stuff. It's awful. And you've told me some numbers of folks that you've helped and housed, but it's heartbreaking to hear that many folks have been kicked out of homes or not being able to afford because of COVID or because of other extenuating factors. But no, and that's I really hope we can help, and I want to. We had discussed a little bit before on trying to do something. I really want to help as many folks as I can, especially doing the good work that you all are doing down in New Orleans. So you had a wonderful idea and a wonderful design, and I'm going to put it up on screen now. So this is the Be Gay Do Crime shirt, hats. So these pieces of merchandise will be available on the Post Political Podcast shop. And you can go. So basically, you see the left half, you see all of the different pieces of merchandise. On the right side, you see that there is the PayPal and also the PayPal link or the scan code. I will be sharing this on my page and in the group, the Post Political Community group. So if anyone wants to, they can go on the PayPal and donate directly, or they can buy one of these awesome shirts and hats that Ari designed. And I basically on the shirt, you have the Be Gay Do Crime on the front, and on one side is the Post Political Podcast logo. On the other side is the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana logo. So whatever folks, whichever way you want to kind of donate, 100% of these proceeds are going to go to TRNOLA. Whatever is there after paying for the shirt and the hat. is going directly to them. So we are hoping to help out as much as possible. I know this is a very small effort, but I'm hoping that our community and our group here on the Post Political Podcast viewers can go on and buy some merchandise and donate to a good cause. Like I said, even if the merchandise isn't exactly something that you want, donate directly. That's why I put the PayPal link in there, and but I think it's a really cool design. I love it. And it adds a little bit of queer anarchy as well, which I just learned about a little bit from you this week. We were talking a little bit about that as well. So
yeah, queer anarchy, it really rocks. Some of the earliest forms of anarchists, wanted to be able to have not just, anarchy within, traditional, heterosexual spaces, but also trans and queer liberation as well.
yeah.
Some of the earliest anarchist theorists in the early 20th century were going like, we need to stop criminalizing gay people.
Yep.
We need to be stopping criminalizing, gender, sexuality, all of those different things. And some of the first writers were going and talking about how sodomy and those things didn't need to be criminalized because
Right.
it's not a crime. And talking about that, I just ended up learning today, sodomy is still technically illegal here in Louisiana.
Right.
So if you get this T-shirt, then you're gonna be having something that's accurate if you're living here in Louisiana, because
Right.
if you're gay, it's still a crime.
Right. Yeah, and I love it as well because it not only helps kind of strengthen that going against the grain anarchist kind of feel, but it's really bringing to light how many things are still criminalized and specifically maybe not 100% but very targeted towards the gay community. I mean, it's not just a law for law's sake. There are still some archaic laws on the books in every state, sure, but these are specifically meant to harm people in the queer community. And I think it's great that we can bring a little light to that, and it's a fun, it's people will ask you when you're wearing one of these pieces of merchandise, what's that about? And you can actually tell them a little bit of a story of and maybe enlighten some folks so that they fight against these laws, and we can take some of these laws off the books. I'd love to see Louisiana fight to get that law taken off the books because it's ridiculous. And maybe the DA, like you had said, is not going to persecute on things like that, but the fact that it's still a law is still hurting folks. It's still a reminder that they're targeting people for being part of the queer community.
So I have to give a shout out to Jason Williams here, because he's our DA here in New Orleans, and he is now refusing to be able to go after like prostitution. He's no longer going after things that are victimless crimes.
Yep.
Like drug possession or vagrancy or any number of these different things that doesn't actually have a victim to them.
Right.
And I have to give him his props, because he's really done a great job when it comes to trying to decrease how many people are going into jail. Because as he ended up talking to us at one point, he had these porch meetings where, when he was running, he specifically talked to community members. He opened up his house, had his porch available to be able to come to and actually talk directly to people. And while I don't agree with him on everything, because he's a Democrat, there are some things that I definitely do, and we want to be able to work with people like him so that we can focus in and really smartly do things that gets people out of jail,
Yep.
that keeps people out of jail, because we should be sending these people to places, jobs that will teach them different things. Even though I
personally think sex work is work, but
Yep.
There's larger things within this, especially with a DA who is willing to work with traditionally marginalized communities.
Right. Yeah, and exactly. I mean, I think there's, I think a lot of folks, especially, anarchists and radical anarchists or libertarians and, folks that get stuck on the radical, nature of where we want to be. But at the end of the day, it pains me sometimes to say this, but we are going to have to get there slowly, and we are going to have to work with folks that are already in these positions of power. So if we find members that are voted in as the DA that are doing some good work, we should highlight that and work with them on that good work. And if they're doing some bad stuff, maybe you gain a relationship with this person. We could have these direct conversations with them and say, hey, this thing that you're doing over here is actually hurting some folks as well. It's just not directly, and you don't see it. And this is why. And maybe it sheds some light on something that they hadn't thought of in the past. I mean, I know a lot of folks, friends of mine that are from high school and college and things like that are Democrats or Republicans, and they think they're doing great things for their communities. And in reality, they don't realize how that's hurting some marginalized communities, or it's just not doing the right thing. It's not their input is not, directly doing the output that they hope for. So I think, working with folks like that is exactly one of the reasons I started the show. So
yeah, no, it's absolutely needed if we're going to want to grow things, and having a perspective of wanting that more community-based resiliency. We need to start at a community level, and we need to start with people who are willing to hear and listen to what we want to be able to say.
Right.
And if he's willing to work on that, great. I'm happy to be able to work with him, because it's that little tiny thing that can lead up to more.
Right.
It took little tiny movements to be able to legalize gay marriage. It took little tiny movements to be able to go and get some of the things for, transgender protections.
Yep.
It took little tiny things to be able to get community support and involvement for all of these different organizations. And if we can meet them partially or even halfway, it's better than nothing.
Right.
We need to be able to meet people where we can agree with them on things.
Yep.
And especially within mutual aid, finding something that you can agree with, with other people, helps others in the long run.
Right.
And especially with local community action and local smaller initiatives, you need the involvement of people who know what they're doing, number one, and have the willingness to be able to do things in a positive manner.
Yeah, put in the work. I mean, it's a lot of the organizations that are doing some great work. The biggest need that they have are people willing to put in that time to do that work. And like I said, I'm hoping that this, bringing you on and talking about a few of the mutual aid efforts in that area, if there's any listeners or anyone that happens to listen to the show afterwards, reach out. If you reach out in the comments, I guarantee I can get you to Ari, or Ari will respond directly, because they are in the comments pretty often, and one of the more active folks in the post-political podcast community and audience. So I'm very like I said, I was super excited for this episode, because I know all of the I don't know even all of it, but I know all of the stuff that we've talked about that you do, and it's amazing work, and it's a lot. So I'm very excited we get to highlight a bunch of it tonight. And I wanted to ask you kind of, one last thing to leave us with, or anything that you want to plug on, any of the efforts or whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I'm going to definitely plug Imagine Waterworks. They were the reason that TRNOLA ended up coming into being. I met my co-founder from them, and they
were more than willing and happy to get us connected. And it's not just that, it's all of their different work that they end up doing. The Queer Guide to Hurricane Season, the Trans Clipper Project, the community fridges that they've helped coordinate.
Right.
And just all of the different really excellent work that they end up doing as well. It's amazing to watch and see, people helping people. And of course, I'm going to plug mine.
Yeah.
TRNOLA is in need of help. We want to be able to help the community that we're inside of. Being trans myself, I've known how difficult it is, and I've seen and experienced myself some of the difficulties of living on this edge. And having that community involvement is very, very important, which is why I'm so happy that I have, all of these different people to be able to go and connect with. Vermin Supreme Institute, you here at Post Political Podcast, all of the different, mutual aid and community driven work that we end up doing is just, it's supremely important. And I'm in awe and wonder at how you've grown and seen how, this community of individuals and people can end up helping one another.
Yeah, I mean, the people helping people thing, that gets me every time, because that's what it's all, everything's about. I mean, there's, and it can be small. I mean, I always say, when folks are saying, we should be helping each other, and some folks think, well, I have to join this thing that I have to put this much effort into and this much time. There's just too much stuff going on. Call your neighbor, see how they're doing right now, especially. That could be one of the biggest pieces of mutual aid in their life right now. That could mean the world to them. Buy groceries for your neighbor if you're able to. Do something. Shovel their driveway. Up here in Massachusetts, we just got a bunch of snow. So I had a neighbor that snowblowed the front walkway, because he noticed that I didn't do it early in the morning, because I got a newborn and I was going crazy trying to balance that and work and with my wife and stuff. It's, those little things that meant the world to me. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that happened. I will remember that he was there to do that for me. These organizations and stuff, I don't want to minimize the work there. That's incredible. And anything you can do to help, even if it's just one day or one donation or one thing that you can do, that's also very, very beneficial. And, don't, people think, people don't help sometimes because it's so it feels so big, or it feels like it's the problem that they're trying to solve is too big. But the little things add up, and people helping people is what it's all about.
Definitely. I'll leave you with this. One of the organizations that I work with just got me connected with a woman who was trying to be able to get connected with the trans community, because she knew and understood that some of the needs were not being met. And so she ended up just donating a whole bunch of unused, unopened makeup for, trans feminine or, gender non-conforming individuals, or for anybody in the trans community who just wanted to use it.
Yep.
And it, again, it was people helping people. It takes the tiniest little thing to make a person's day go better.
Yeah.
That little bit of clothing. You don't have to give monetarily. You can donate time. You can donate goods. There's so many different ways of being able to help one another that are small, everyday little things.
Right. No, it's so true. And I thank you so much. I mean, this was wonderful. You're a wonderful person and friend. I'm super happy I was able to talk to you, and we were able to, get the technical stuff situated. It was, like I said, I was able to talk about a little bit of the mutual aid stuff going on up here in the Northeast. So it worked out. It's kind of a mutual aid themed episode, and it worked out. So no, I thank you so much. And I hope I will keep you updated. Obviously, we'll be talking quite a bit about the promo. Again, I'm going to flash this up on the screen. I will send this out on the page and the community group as soon as I'm done with the episode. But please, if you want, like I said, if you don't want the merch, that's fine. Go and donate directly. If you want the merch, because it's awesome. I think the design's cool, and it's just a good way to maybe bring some light to some laws that you might want to help take off the books as well. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
So that was Ari, and I, again, so happy they were on to talk more about all of the different work being done right now. I hope that a lot of folks stuck with us. I saw, I think, on the viewers that most folks did. And I thank you all for joining us. I think this was a wonderful episode. And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of a Post Political Podcast. Thanks again.